Well, then let's introduce ourselves. I'm Damien Karras.
And I'm the devil. Now kindly undo these straps.
Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Real Horror Show, and I'm one of your hosts, Conor McMahon.
I'm Connor Dowling.
Ali Horror.
And Mark Sheridan.
So this week we've been looking at directors' first films, horror directors' first films, and just having a look at where they started and, you know, seeing where they went from there. So, what did people watch?
I watched a load of films. So
I got more films this time than before as well.
Yeah, I got a list here, but it was just because it was an interesting thing. But I think we've all found it actually a bit trickier than we expected. Where sometimes we thought it was a director's first film, and it turned out they had a couple before it, or even, I don't know, even just tracking down some of the films.
Yeah, it was really hard.
Yeah. I don't like a couple of the real obvious ones for me are like, obviously you got Romero's Night of the Living Dead, which is considered a classic, and you know, obviously James Cameron, Piranha 2. Del Toro's Kronos.
Also considered a classic.
A classic in its own right. But again, yeah, like actually that's a funny one because like talking about a couple of these films here where the directors don't seem to like to talk about those films. Like James Cameron pretty much disowns like Piranha 2. And of course, yeah, it's not a good film, but surely anything that kind of got you going, like that was your first chance. Maybe if he hadn't made that, he wouldn't have had the other opportunities, you know?
I mean, what is interesting about Piranha 2 is that you can't see James Cameron's style in Piranha 2.
Yeah,
like you would not know. You know, sometimes you see an element of what they like say Spielberg's Duel is.
Absolutely.
Spielberg even says he watches Duel just to remind himself how to make a Spielberg film.
Wow,
you know. But with Piranha 2, nothing.
Duel actually is on my list here as well because like that is like I think, you know, people could debate whether things are horror films or thrillers or not, but I think Duel, like, because it is Jaws with the truck basically. But like it's incredible because that's a TV movie, and a few of the directors actually on the list I was looking up here have actually done like a TV movie or two before what we think of as their debut feature films. But Duel, like, I still think you could release it today. I know obviously it looks a little bit more TV movie-y, like the
it was a TV movie.
Yeah, but like
you can't deny the tension, the
scenes
in it though.
Like the action scenes, everything, it still works. Like it really works. And the scenes on the road with the truck behind the car, like it's
written by Richard Matheson.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Legend of Hell House.
Legend of Hell House. It all comes back to Legend of Hell House.
Here at Real Horror Show. Definitely one of my favorites anyway. So what were kind of one of the standout ones that you watched, Mark?
Well, you see, you know, I kind of had there's two groups of people for me. There's the older directors who we all know and love and kind of how they got started. And then there's kind of what's slightly more interesting is the newer guys, like people on the scene, how they started. And it's kind of different, actually. I don't know whether it's because it's slightly easier to make films nowadays. The older directors that I love, even when you look at like Shivers by David Cronenberg, Hellraiser, Clive Barker, you know, because those films needed much more money and effort to get them made, I think they were more polished, you know, better put together products. While nowadays, because we can make it for a little bit cheaper and a little rougher, it's not that there isn't still really good ideas and interesting things, but it's kind of a different approach. They kind of seem to have one or two more indie films to get going.
They're more micro-budget things nowadays.
Absolutely, yeah. But yeah, so so those ones are great. And then I've got a couple of the newer kind of ones where not everyone's kind of maybe lived up to the potential of them. But it's just to avoid always just talking about the same old horror films, because we could just talk about like Cronenberg and Carpenter all day long.
A lot of the stuff I watched was new stuff that I had seen.
See, I was originally going to go with some of like my like old favorite directors like Todd Browning and William Castle, and I decided not to. I was going to go actually with James Wan originally.
James Wan.
Sorry, that's my Irish accent going like in all sorts of bonkers direction. Definitely. I think it is easier to because you're more of a genre based director. I think in this day and age, you can carve yourself a niche easier.
What is James Wan's first film? Because I think I looked that up, but
it's Saw.
His first feature Stygian.
Saw.
Stygian is actually, I know, and I was on a hunt to try and find it, but this is one of those ones again though where he doesn't. I think he describes it as a college film he co-directed with someone else. So I don't think he, in the same way the Four Wedding. What was the one with Quentin Tarantino? Four Rooms. That'd be a good Tarantino film. But you're like, it's kind of
after that.
It's not really. He doesn't own it as his own, but so technically there is one out there, but I don't think you can get it.
It's like these directors have, you know, what's shown as their first film on IMDb is just going to be up there because that's the earliest thing chronologically in their career. But it's almost as if they see them as like a practice film or something.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, because Spielberg actually did 2 features before Duel.
Yeah, actually,
really?
I saw that as well.
I've seen one of them. I don't know if you have the name for it. It's a haunted house film.
There's another one he did after Duel, apparently called Something Evil, that I'm looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, I thought that was before Duel.
But according to IMDb, it wasn't. But I wouldn't trust that. So you know, because I have that to watch at home. Is that any good? Do you remember?
It is. Again, it's got a lot of classic Spielberg moments in him. There's a reason probably it's not well known. It's it's TV movie ish. It's him doing his best with a TV movie. So there's a lot, as always with Spielberg, in it that's good, but it's very, very much like all those other haunted house movies. Like, it doesn't really bring something new to it story wise.
Even though isn't that kind of what Spielberg was so amazing for, though, was it is that sort of flow and just the way he approaches that material. It's so kind of visually shown, actually, and the same with Del Toro and Cronus. Like, it's the stories aren't necessarily that complicated sometimes. It's beautifully told, through certain kind of shots. Because it's weird, even though I suppose generally TV movies, bar Duel, are kind of discounted from being someone's debut feature. You forget how many great directors, like Nick Winding Refn, did 2 episodes of Miss Marple.
No way.
Yeah, it's these guys, like they could. Ben Wheatley, he did plenty of stuff on Channel 4, like kind of comedy shows. You forget that these guys all had. They've always started somewhere. People very rarely just arrive on the scene with just happens to be their first film is so well made. And actually, even though James Wan did do apparently that film beforehand, like when you look at Saw as a genuinely kind of a first film shot in 17 days. It's pretty incredible.
It is.
Like, for the franchise
that
it
perfect.
Inspired and the career that it kind of led to for him, it's like seriously.
Well, he's kind of, I don't agree with the title, but he is kind of considered the master of horror as far as the industry goes at the moment.
I'm a massive fan. Like, he has reinvigorated the horror genre in a way, because we were falling down that path of Paranormal Activities and like it was just getting repetitive, and then he just came out and just gave us back like that atmosphere. He gave us back that fear. I mean, freaking Dead Silence, I thought was
a creepy film.
I love that. I love that movie.
The puppet, the ventriloquist dummy, or is it just a doll?
Jason Stackhouse is in that.
Jason Stackhouse, freaking Ryan Quanten,
And the jigsaw puppet turns up in the background of one of the scenes.
Does he?
Yeah, he's sitting in the room when they go up with all the puppets at the end. He's sitting on the ground over there.
Fantastic.
Whoa! When you said that, I looked over there and just saw him on the wall.
Jigsaw.
Oh, that's not Jigsaw. We could have lied.
We're seeing things in here. No, that's a great, Dead Silence is fantastic. It's amazing how, have you seen that movie Magic with Anthony Hopkins? No. It's like it took it.
Did the puppet move? Did it
was
move?
Was it in his head?
Oh, cool.
It made ventriloquist dummies scary on, in a whole different way than Saw did, in a whole different way than what's that movie, Conjuring, Annabelle did.
But The Conjuring's James Wan as well, is it not?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
because, for all his getting rid of repetition, he did bring us Insidious 1, 2, 3, and now 4, and Conjuring 1 and 2.
But again, the first...
and Saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and Saw Legacy coming soon.
Insidious is definitely one of my favorite horror films in the last, couple
I really like
years.
it.
I thought it was, exceptional. It had an idea that, it took Freddy Krueger to a whole new level, because now you were afraid to go to sleep in case you floated away and ended up in the further.
One of the things about Insidious that I think is interesting, and I kind of had this thought when I first saw it, but I wasn't really sure how to verbalize it. But when I watched it, I was like, this is like all of the cool things from horror movies that I love, all just put into a nice, neat, modern package, told in a really slick 2-hour format. And
it did have the hand clapping.
It did. No, yeah, that's because I would say The Conjuring might be a little bit more like that to me. Like, Insidious had enough of its... The way they did the jumps, I thought, were much better. They were less the cheap scares that the third one really fell into.
Seen the third one,
but the first one did, the red-faced guy over your man's shoulder during the daytime.
Maul,
really Darth Maul.
He's called the Lipstick Demon.
That's way better.
Darth Maul is a controversial point of that film, isn't it? Because some people are like, oh, come on, Darth Maul, really? And some people will put down the entire film because of that,
It scared me when I first saw it.
I remember watching it in the cinema and trying to, get as far back into my chair as possible. I was just
at least
trying
it
to get
wasn't
away.
Jar Jar Binks.
Wait for Insidious Part 4.
No, wait for the Redux version of Insidious, the
when you
digitally
see
remastered version.
In the corner, and it's just a silhouette of him
in the bedroom. That's a very scary bit.
It is kind of funny because when you first see it, and then you're like, oh, that's like a really impressive silhouette, and then the second time you see it, you're like, oh, that's just a man wearing fluffy raver boots. It's hilarious. But it's it's like just the noise that he makes and the things that he does. Like he goes with, are you
I'm laughing.
No, you're right though. It's weird because that's one of those scares that genuinely got me even more so than Darth Maul / Lipstick Man / whatever you want to call it.
Lipstick
like
demon.
because I think that scare works so well the first time you watch it, because the sting doesn't come in until a couple of seconds. Like your eyes have a moment to adjust and realize there's a silhouette there before the audible bang comes in to make you jump. Yeah. And it's so much scarier because you've kind of when they were doing the editing, obviously they've given you long enough for you to get the point of saying, wait a minute, there's someone, and then you get the bang. And I really think that's okay. While nowadays the bang almost comes before you actually even cut to the next shot. Yeah, and it robs you of it.
What I thought was interesting, because one of the films I watched was Absentia.
Oh yeah, Mike Flanagan.
Yeah, which I really like.
It's very like, and actually just a bit of a preface. So this is Mike Flanagan, obviously Hush, and he's doing Gerald's Game for Netflix at the moment, and Oculus. Oculus. But Absentia was he had actually made 2 features before that, I turned out, but I don't think they were ever properly released. Okay. Still Life and something else. I think I might have a note of it here. And Absentia, like he shot that on a Canon 5D. Right. $60,000 budget. They started off thinking they were going to do it for $10,000, and eventually it just kept growing. But he lived across the road from the tunnel they used in it, and he just looked at what could he use and figured out a story around it. Like it's his girlfriend in the video. Right. And it really stands up, doesn't it?
Featured.
Yeah, feature film.
Features. It's really worth watching because again, you can kind of see that there's a filmmaker there behind it, if you know what I mean. Like the very opening minute is a woman. She's taken down old posters of her husband's
missing posters,
posters, and putting up fresh ones. And do you know what I mean is when somebody can just visually, you're sucked in immediately with that. And even just talking about jump scares, what I thought was great about this is a lot of the jump scares were sometimes during the daytime and also without any noise or bangs or anything. And it was literally just this creepy thing in a corner that you just see. And I thought it was a very cool film. Yeah.
It's weird, isn't it? Because it's like there's nothing, even all the scares and everything in it, it's not like there's anything that hasn't been done before. Like it is a bathroom with the sheet pulled across, whatever, the shower curtain pulled across. It's, someone looking out the window when you come down at night and you approach them. And there's nothing that flash about the way they're done, but they work and it's effective and it is genuinely tense. Like it's a slower paced film. It definitely takes its time, but I don't know. It just, when you look at so much independent things, you kind of give people a lot of leeway because you're going, they didn't have much money or anything like that. But yeah, when you watch this, when you think, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, because I think there's a thing with horror and why it often works on a low budget. And it's something that Last House on the Left would have had it. And a lot of those early horrors. And then also even new low budgets. There's something about when something's on a low budget, you nearly feel like the horror is more real. Yeah. You can kind of... Like when you see Last House on the Left, you really think you really fear for that girl that they would have chased her around those woods and there was no sort of proper safety. I do know it has an edge or a rawness.
Especially at the time when it came out, people were probably more used to seeing studio pictures and things that were a lot more polished. Yeah. So when you see something like this, that's a bunch of people in the woods, like Last House on the Left, a bunch of people in the woods, even the actors themselves aren't your typical polished Hollywood stars. Yeah, they kind of look like real criminals.
Evil Dead.
But it's just on that point with Absentia. The first thing I bought into as well is that they don't look like Hollywood
actors,
and you're instantly more.
You relate to them.
Yeah.
There's a terrible danger in a lot of American films. But it's a lot of American films nowadays. They are like soap operas, soap opera actors. They're so pretty and chiseled, and like the notion of what a handsome man or a beautiful woman are so, it's so stereotypical and defined that it's not even interesting anymore. Yeah, in Absentia, you've got like a real actress who looks like a real person. She's beautiful, but you get her, and actually Connor and me were talking earlier on about the House of the Devil. That's the one, and with your one, Jocelyn's the actress in that. But again, it's just like she's a beautiful actress, but just real as well. And that's what's so important because if we're not interested in watching perfect people who have, it has to be someone we can associate with and think is actually a human being.
And you want it. Well, I mean, I know certainly for myself, you want whatever's happening in the horror movie to happen to you, but not obviously for you to die or anything. But like for you to feel like that could happen to you. Like when I watched The Exorcist, I used to be told I looked like Reagan, and because I was told I looked like Reagan, I was like, oh, maybe I'll get possessed. Maybe that'll be a bit of fun, wouldn't it? You know what I mean? Yeah, it's like it's it's more accessible to be possibly murdered, I guess. But I just went into a dark place and I did not mean to go there.
But I think
we can murder you.
So if you're still listening, Connor Dowling has something to say.
But the way we're talking about like Absentia and how it's, you know, would you guys consider like it's a fairly low budget film?
Oh yeah, 60,000. Like
right.
we're talking.
So it's low budget and you get some good scares out of it. Yeah. So it's this horror director's first film, and I remember reading a thing recently about James Wan giving some young horror directors tips. Maybe you guys have seen it on No Film School or online or somewhere. And he was saying, you know, a very like clear piece of advice to young horror directors is if you can't scare someone with no money, then you're not going to be able to scare someone with money. Okay. You know, so I think for the likes of young filmmakers who are going out and making their shorts and making their horror first features, even if they're micro budget, if they're getting those scares in there, they're going to be attracting the eyes of other collaborators, producers, actors, and that say, well, look what this guy or girl did with 10 grand, 20 grand, you know, in some cases, like Mark here, like much, much less even, you know, money. Let's see what they can do with a more budget.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, no, you are right.
That you're showing them. Yeah.
I am right, according to James Wan.
Master of horror.
Master of horror.
So what else did any other on the list?
I had a really interesting experience with this brief because, you know, Connor said, you know, horror directors' first films, and I was kind of like, does it have to be horror? Do they have to be horror directors?
It is a horror podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's what made it hard.
Does it have to be horror? But I just, you know, had a look at some lists of horror directors on IMDb and said Toby Hooper. Toby Hooper. I said Toby Hooper. Or is it Tobe? That's who it'll be. You know, Texas Chainsaw, Poltergeist, one of my favorite horror films. But actually, Poltergeist is probably more of even an adventure movie, I think, if you give it another watch. But I said, what's his first film? Oh, it's something called Eggshells that I've never heard of. I was like, cool, I'll find this easily and I'll watch it. Straight away, I was like, oh, I can't seem to find it. Huh. And it was like one of these, you know, like an old investigator coming out of retirement or something. So, oh, this will just be an easy case. We just need to get your advice on it. You know, 5 years later, I'm still trying to track down this movie. But I can't find it anywhere. I got on to Ed King, who runs the Horrorthon in IFI, and he said that the Blu-ray of Texas Chainsaw 2 has special features and Eggshells is on that.
That's interesting.
I've yet to get it because I don't have any money. So if anyone wants to give it to me, I'm waiting for it. So that's cool. So I said I'd like a little bit of a quest trying to find a movie. But as I said to Mark earlier in the week, I also like when people just hand me the movie. But so I just did a bit of research and had a look for other horror filmmakers. So I looked at Adam Green, who did Hatchet, Digging Up the Marrow. If anyone's seen that, it's a pretty cool kind of mockumentary.
Frozen I really liked, actually.
Cool.
I'm not a gigantic fan of the Hatchet ones, but Frozen I thought was very good.
I thought that was a cool bottle movie.
Yeah.
You know, it just all kind of takes place. I think he did something else that was kind of contained like that.
For anyone who's Frozen is the one on the chairlift, isn't it? It's basically they get stuck up there and there's kind of...
Not the let it go.
And they try to jump down.
Yeah, it's how to escape. But
that scene with the wolves... that actually really got to me. That's like the road got to me. Because I felt...
that crunch.
Like him just being there and then it's like, and then the wolves came and...
But again, that's actually true because you know when you hear those kind of concepts, sometimes something as simple as but someone's stuck on a ski lift, and you're kind of going, I'm going to watch 90 minutes of like two people sitting there, and they do work it pretty damn well because like that's what it's not just the scares and violence, especially on a lower budget thing. There's not going to be chock-a-block that. So the stuff in between, that conversation, those characters, is really important.
That interesting as a kind of indie film director. If you can make that interesting and engaging for the 90 minutes, again, people are going to be interested.
Absolutely.
You know, people are going to want to work with you again. So he also has this cool TV show called Holliston. Has anyone seen Holliston?
No. I've not even heard of it.
Great horror comedy TV show. It's him and his friend who run like a kind of, I think they run like a podcast or a horror TV show kind of thing. And they're broke ass horror filmmakers trying to make it. And it's kind of made like a sitcom, but it's a really like out there and crazy sitcom and lots of horror references, lots of, you know, horror cameos, John Landis, Kane Hodder and all these people. It's great. It's somewhat autobiographical as well. So I went to look for Adam Green's first film. It's called Coffee and Donuts.
Okay.
It's a comedy film, and I can't fucking find it.
Right. And you think in the day of video on demand and stuff nowadays, we kind of just presume everything's at our fingertips if we want to, like, because it's not like the days where things would just disappear. But
So is this another case?
It's another case. Yeah, absolutely, right. So
a lot of work from this podcast.
I decided to have a bit of a look over to the east at an excellent horror director, Takeshi Miike.
Okay.
Right? Audition, Itchy the Killer.
Oh.
He's made like 30 films though, hasn't he?
God.
Like,
He has
crazy.
100.
Yeah.
He has 100 directing credits on IMDb.
Oh my God.
And his first film
Yes, tell us.
is called, I don't want to offend anyone with my pronunciation, but his first film is called Topu Mini Pato Tai Ayachi Jan Kushan. And it's, right?
We'd like to apologize to all people
Yes.
of
I'm
Eastern
sorry.
persuasion.
I'm just reading it phonetically, right? But it's a comedy about a daring policewoman in leotards who defeats criminals using gymnastics. That's the actual blurb on IMDb.
Sounds like one of his down-to-earth ones.
So as I was going through his list of films and just staggering at the amount of quality and quantity in there, a lot of quantity.
Yeah.
Bit of quality though.
There's some serious quality
I
in
found
there.
As the Gods Will, which I've never seen before. Has anyone seen As the Gods
No,
Will?
I haven't seen that one.
Have you heard about it?
No.
Oh
No.
man, it's not his most recent film because he made it in 2014, and I think he's made about 35 films since then. But basically, it's kind of like a weird battle royale thing where it's this classroom full of students. It starts like it has like the most intense opening for a film. The opening for a film is like the last scene of a film, basically. And it's all these students standing in the classroom, and there's this weird like Asian porcelain head that's like CGI with a mouth that talks, and he's sitting at the top of the room, and every time he's facing away from the students, and he has a button on his back, so the students need to press his button before he turns around. But when he turns around, he makes them explode and like makes their heads explode, and all these like red balls come off them, and it's this big weird gaming film. It's all about gaming, and there's a big giant cat, and it's crazy. You
like
gotta
one
check
of
it out.
those mushy cats with the arms.
Yes, exactly one of those. It's gigantic, and it has them all dressed up as mice, and it starts crushing them and eating them.
I've got a question.
Yes.
Why would they press the button if his head would turn around and they'd blow up?
No, they have to press the button on his back before he turns around.
So it's like Where's Wolf?
It's like
or
where
the
it's
wolf,
like the-
the wolf game.
What's this called again?
Yeah.
Yeah, pronounce
You've
it again.
got to see it. You got to see it. Takeshi Miike's film from 2014. It's called As the Gods Will.
As the Gods Will,
Yeah,
okay.
It's really damn cool. But, so I did have a hard time looking for directors' first films. I also, like a lot of
sounds like a really long excuse for
He's just described a film in the later part of someone's career.
Absolutely no. But I also, one of the things I found was that I had seen a lot of like the good directors, like first films. Like I'd seen Duel, I'd seen Last House on the Left, Wes Craven. I'd seen obviously Night of the Living Dead, and I was kind of blown away, going, "Holy shit, that was George Romero's first film! What a legacy!" But one of the things that got me thinking was, like I suppose we've kind of touched on it already about how like these first films are these directors, almost their practice films. It's the film that they just threw all of their extra cash into at the time probably, and made on a shoestring budget. And maybe once they kind of had gotten that out of the way, they wanted to maybe start fresh and say, actually, this cool movie is my first film, this one that I'm a little more proud of. And it got me thinking about a podcast I'd heard with Edgar Wright, who made Shaun of the Dead, obviously. And
Stiff Little...
A Fistful of Fingers was his first film. It was a Western, and you can hear him and Kevin Smith talking about it on a podcast. It's on YouTube. And he talks about how the first film he made was a Western. And he put like everything he had into it, and he made it, and like his first assembly cut of the film was like 65 minutes long, and he was like, oh Jesus. And he tells some good stories about it, and he says at the same time he heard that Kevin Smith had just come out with Clerks, a story about two guys working in a convenience store, made for like 10 grand, that had sold around the world. And he says at the time he just remembers thinking, fuck, why did I make a stupid Western? Like it would have been so smarter to make something so small budget. And on a podcast he was asked, oh, would you ever release Fistful of Fingers on one of your special features on a DVD or something? And he's like, no, I don't want people to see it. There is kind of something to that. I think that if the directors really wanted people to see their films, I could be wrong, but if they really want to see them, maybe they have a bit more of a push to say, hey, see my first film.
Yeah, I think Cronenberg on is it Arrow Blu-ray, I think, have released Cronenberg's first two films that came out before Shivers, Stereo and Crimes of the Future or something like that. Again, kind of not completely full films. I kind of think 60-70 minutes, and I think he himself would hold his hands up and say, not his greatest works, but I guess there's that curiosity for a lot of kind of film people. So I suppose on that level it is just maybe there isn't really the demand there from normal people.
For this, I definitely feel your pain in like you have this idea of your horror director, and then you look at to their first, and it's comedy, or it's a freaking Western, or it's a freaking boring thriller, and like, and you can't pick it because you're like, oh, God damn it! Why didn't you start out in horror?
So what did you watch, Ellie?
I watched Kronos. Kronos. However you want to pronounce it.
It's Kronos.
Guillermo del Toro's debut feature.
Brilliant.
I'm a massive Guillermo del Toro. I can pronounce his name.
Very good.
Fan. I loved it. I remember this. We had this on VHS as a kid. And I just remember that the golden thing but it was on a girl's neck. It wasn't on a guy's neck.
Oh, on the cover.
The cover, yeah.
I have the DVD as well. Yeah.
The DVD. I literally haven't moved on from VHS.
Sorry, I'm so late.
No, I loved it actually, and I'll just keep talking. For first feature, it's like what we were talking about with James Wan, like with Saw. It's polished. It's freaking amazing. Like you're looking at that and you're like, I actually was comparing it a lot to Peter Jackson. I saw a lot of Peter Jackson, like Brain Dead and Bad Taste in it. Strangely enough, just some of the camera angles and just some of the way he framed things. And I was like, Peter Jackson is an exceptional director. How come he started with this and Guillermo del Toro can start with this?
True.
But I still love, I do love Bad Taste, and Brain Dead is one of my favorite films.
And The Frighteners.
Oh, The Frighteners. But no, Brain Dead is actually one of my favorite horror films. I love it.
But you're right, as a debut film, like Bad Taste is a very different type of beast. Like even because I suppose that's closer to Evil Dead, I guess, Sam Raimi's debut. Like,
it is
but
mad how
it's even rougher.
Yeah. But it's funny, like,
it's so rough
that people now, when they think of Peter Jackson, like a lot of people wouldn't know how he began, and he's never done.
I'm waiting for the box set that has like Bad Taste mixed with Lovely Bones.
But it's
I forgot about Lovely Bones. Actually,
like it was kind of funny because Sam Raimi did go back to horror, you know, and it's interesting that Peter Jackson has, because there was talk about Bad Taste too for a while.
Yeah,
but I remember I saw Bad Taste on a double bill with a Northern Irish horror film called The Eliminator, which
never seen
is
it.
not available anywhere, which was basically about, it was like a Irish Evil Dead, which was back in, this is in the 90s, like 97. It was made in Northern Ireland, and somebody read the Book of the Dead, and St. Patrick came back to dispel the zombies.
Amazing.
It was like at the
that
time,
sounds whopper.
like I remember, and he said at the time his influence was Bad Taste, and I saw it in the IFI. And like literally that was one of the films of just go, because like from there then I went to Evil Dead 2. But seeing that first Peter Jackson was just incredible because he was a model maker at the time, Peter Jackson as well. So all those splatter effects.
Oh,
but even can we just talk about, and then we'll talk about Kronos again. But that moment, remember when they were up on like what do you call it, like the hill crest, and there's that dummy that falls down the mountain because it's supposed to be your man, and it's it's the worst looking thing in the world, and you're like, come on, like you're like, this is your job. You could have put a little bit more effort into a realistic looking man rolling down a hill to die, like.
Me and my friends made a film when we were teenagers, and you know, we were just like basically pulling from everything we had seen, and one of the things we were really influenced by was Bad Taste. And there was a scene in our film that we just copied the line from Bad Taste where I think they pulled the alien zombie apart, and someone goes, "Geez, they come to bits easy." And we just put that line in our film because it was like, why wouldn't you use that line? But like Connor, when you saw Bad Taste and Braid and that, was Peter Jackson already Lord of the Rings Peter Jackson?
Oh no, this
really?
is like at the time it was. I mean, this is pre-2000. This is like 1998. So,
oh wow.
Okay, right.
Okay.
So we literally. I knew him as a horror director.
That was the weird thing, because like when Lord of the Rings came out, most people hadn't heard of Peter Jackson. You're kind of going, Brain Dead, and they're like, what? And, upside down lawnmower, walking down a hot corridor, and no one got it. But like for horror fans, this guy had already proven his weight.
And it was such a crazy like. Okay, so this guy did Bad Taste and all of these big, crazy, world-taking over blockbuster Lord of the Rings movies. Like, it just seemed like, how do you go from that to that?
Yeah.
And I didn't find out until years and years later that he did The Frighteners, which was one of my favourite movies growing up. Like, I mean, I love that movie.
I love it.
Much.
It's great. I'm so happy though that he
I'd love to see him doing more stuff
he
like that.
Started there.
I'd love to see him go back smaller. Like, just not everything has to be 3 hours long.
Well, okay. We seem to be hating on Lord of the Rings right now.
I'm hating all over it.
This is not happening.
And I can actually give you a bit of Guillermo del Toro hate as well. To be honest.
Okay, well,
because I think Kronos and Pan's Labyrinth are Guillermo del Toro's best films.
Don't say anything against Blade 2.
His only Two good films.
Oh, wow.
What do you think about that, guys? Discuss.
So Connor, well, no, actually, I like on that one. No, I think it's important because you know, I know it could be seen as critical to go against some of the kind of so-called leisurely directors, but I do think it's important for people to be able to actually speak up and say, because like, there's always going to be ones that like some of us will all love and other people will
Halloween.
hate. Yeah, well, Ali,
right here.
I think Conor McMahon said
I
it best
was not
over beers
afraid.
last week. Sometimes you can be wrong.
but don't get me wrong. Like I mean,
But I
even
made
with
it
Guillermo
up.
del Toro, like I suppose that's
No, but they're not all
harsh
classics.
But
I'll
I
agree with
have
them.
I agree.
been. I want to like his films. You know what I mean? Because I've loved some of his other stuff, but I have been disappointed many more times than I have really really enjoyed his films. Like, come on, guys, Pacific Rim.
Yeah, okay, well,
But
yeah,
Pacific
yeah,
Rim
yeah,
looked
yeah.
like Pacific Rim was everything I always wanted to be in a film, and it was all in there, and I left very unhappy. Like,
Yeah.
but like there are there's moments of brilliancy. I guess Del Toro is that visual guy.
Yeah.
He nails that stuff,
Yes.
you know, and
Oh,
that's why I
yes.
think Hellboy works so well for me.
Hellboy,
you know,
yes, I've left out Hellboy.
He gets those worlds, and even what he brought into Blade 2, like
Hellboy 2.
yeah.
And Hellboy 2, not so much.
Yeah, actually, less for me on Hellboy 2 as well. But like, it just he gets it. Yeah, it's the Pan's Labyrinth, it's the world building.
Pan's
You know, even
Labyrinth
Devil's
Well,
Backbone.
Backbone.
Pan's Labyrinth is like the
It's
pinnacle of
masterpiece,
his
yeah.
career. It's like
Yeah.
that film is.
But we just actually then, Ali, going back to your thing on Kronos,
Yes.
like, because what I think is interesting with that, because actually I haven't only rewatched it last night because I'd kind of forgotten a lot about it. You can that for me is like Cronenberg when he made Shivers. You can see all these sort of themes and things that he's going to continuously go back to. There's the young girl having to deal with it. It's very much about death. It's this kind of mixture between the real world and the fantasy world. You know, even just the very kind of the music is very fairy tale like and playful. Like, so for me, that's like the proper auteur director where he kind of has always been that guy, and he's just developed and expanded on that in different directions.
That was literally one of my points, is that you can see all of these little like nuggets of like the seeds starting to grow, and then from there on his career has just like the trajectory of it. Like you can see where it all began, and also you can see a lot of I saw a lot of Suspiria in that movie. Can't find it in my notes right now. I could see a lot of references. Also, there was a reference. I don't know if you have you seen Kronos?
Yeah, I've seen it
So
twice. But
in your movie From the Dark, did you reference that moment when Jesus is licking the blood off the floor?
Oh, well, it's interesting. If I didn't directly, that's the moment I remember from Kronos, and I remember because when the trailers for the films came out, that was the clip they'd show where the guy starts collecting the blood, and then he
Particularly
licks it off
disgusting.
the floor.
But it's so slowly and
so
just
simple.
it's just because I just remember when I was rewatching it there, and that was the first thing that came to mind. I was like, put me straight back into that set with you, and you go, no, lick it slowly.
It puts the lotion in the basket.
Best direction ever.
and then we broke our shit laughing because you were like, you're like a little kitten. Anyway, where was I? There was this moment actually towards the start. This is in retrospect when I was actually comparing it to different like other vampire films. There was this moment at the start where after he's been bitten by the thingy the first time round, and he has gone back to his wife and whatever, and she's like bandaged him up, and he's like he goes to the fridge and he drinks like a whole gallon of water, and he's like, oh, I'm still thirsty, and he doesn't know what's happening. And then he goes to the window and he's like, oh, I'm still hungry and thirsty, and he doesn't know what's happening. And then he starts gnawing on his bandage, and he starts scratching at it, and it's like for the first time I ever like felt like what it might be like to be a vampire.
Right.
Like that feeling of never being satiated, of never having the thirst quench, of like literally like eating yourself to try figure out what the are we allowed to swear anymore?
Yes.
You're
Okay.
not.
But that was one of my favorite moments when I was rewatching it. It was just that like I really felt like I was like, God, yeah, all those years when I was a child and I wanted to be a vampire, actually it doesn't seem like all that great crack. Like no, it was great. I mean, it was a lot funnier, I felt, than what his later career has gone on to. Like his later films, there was a lot more lightheartedness, like Tito the mortician guy who's like
Yeah, there's something pretty odd about that whole.
He's probably my favorite character in it. He's just so bizarre. Like, oh, I'm going to make you beautiful. Oh, you're a fucking dick. Like, he's fucking hilarious. Yeah, no, I mean,
I don't know actually, because I don't know that much about Del Toro, but because just after finishing the film last night, we stuck on the commentary just for the first 5 minutes. Actually, it seemed like it was a pretty good one, but I hadn't realized that it was no, it was the standard kind of DVD one that came out before. But firstly, the film had a $2 million budget, and which was the biggest Mexican film ever made at that time. But I'd love to know more about how, like, as a debut filmmaker, what was it that made him get that opportunity to go and do it?
Was he directing commercials? Or?
I don't know. I don't get the sense that he did, but
no,
I don't know.
That was one thing that I thought to myself as well, because when like I said earlier on, it is close to perfect as a feature, as a first feature, excuse me, and
so atmospheric. It's really atmospheric.
It is. It's super 90s.
There's a real feeling
deadly,
of it,
like,
you know, like I saw it so long ago. But I just remember kind of the feeling of watching it and just like certain scenes, like visuals from it. You know, I probably couldn't tell you the exact story from beginning to end, but I remember it just...
There's not a gigantic amount.
It's not.
It's
just him kind of going around just
simple.
deteriorating, isn't it? Like,
and Ron Perlman every now and then being aggressive and violent. But who doesn't love that?
Okay, this is not horror related, but the Aristocats.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Scared the shit out of me.
I was laughing me bollocks off because... Sorry, anyway. In the Aristocats, Edgar, the waiter or the butler, has this little tiny room that he sits in, and then he can hear everything happening, like the madame and all talking, and he, like, you know, basically goes like, "Fuck you, madame! Like, you're leaving this all to the cats." Freaking Del Toro stole that for Ron Perlman in his little room when his uncle's calling down, and he's like, "Yes, uncle, I'll be coming, you fucking motherfucker. Yes, uncle, I'll be right there."
Somewhere Del Toro's listening to this going, "Yes, someone finally got that reference." Me and Ali are soulmates.
Yes.
My highlight of the week, I don't know if anyone's seen this, but it's a first featured film director, and the film I think is only about 3 years old, called The Battery.
Oh yeah, I actually only watched it the other week on Shudder. Yeah.
Okay. I just thought it was great.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it's a zombie film, and the reason I'd sort of not watched it is, like, it had been sold kind of to me as a zombie comedy.
Yes.
And I was expecting, you know, an over-the-top gory kind of movie. Nothing wrong with them, but the film is very different to that.
Give the guys the
yeah. So
pitch.
basically, it's about two guys who they play baseball, and they're not necessarily friends, but they've been sort of joined together by this zombie apocalypse. And the idea, when you meet them, they're kind of on the road, and you figure out that they're traveling because previously they were stuck up in a house for 3 months together with the zombies around it, and they were like, "No way are we stopping in a house anymore. We're just going to keep moving." And he talks about a shark. You know, we're like sharks. We got to keep moving or we're going to die. That's the whole idea. And I looked it up afterwards as well. Battery is... Because I was like, what's this battery?
Yeah,
what's the battery
what
mean?
is it? Because that did...
Yeah, and basically battery is a pitcher and a catcher in baseball is called the battery.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
That makes sense. Because they do play catch a good bit during the film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the film, it's got an amazing soundtrack, and there's a lot of these really long, wide takes where the action just plays out. But it's really about the characters, those two guys, and following them. And I don't know, what did you do? But I just thought it was great.
When was this made? Sorry,
about 3 years.
Yeah, 2 or 3 years ago,
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
Maybe three or four
It was
maximum.
on at the Horathon here.
Yeah, I
3
missed
years
it that
ago.
year. Because again, the way it was pitched to me was like it's a zombie comedy kind of thing, but there's two guys, but it's not really about the zombies, and, you know, I just kind of, it can be hard to tell what that is. And it's a weird one because I when I watch these indie films where it's a horror film but with very little of the horror side, usually I feel that's kind of cheating, but in this one it's not, because actually these guys are just interesting, and I'd rather watch that. And when the zombies become part of the story, and they're always kind of there in the background, it has a much bigger effect. And you're right, because it's these wide angle shots, certainly easier to make than a traditional kind of horror film, because they're mostly sort of almost one-shot scenes where the actors kind of move in and out of shots and everything, and they apparently quite improvised as well, actually.
Yeah, the film, it was made for about 16 grand as well. That's what... and one of the major plots is, like, one of the guys you realise has never killed a zombie.
Yes.
And it becomes this thing where, you know, you gotta kill a zombie, you know?
I don't think we want to spoil what goes, but it is, there's a very humor that builds to a moment.
Exactly. Yeah.
But no, it really is worth watching, and you do care about the guys, and it's that odd thing and the interesting idea of just because you're stuck together doesn't mean you're going to like each other.
Yeah.
And also those challenges of not wanting to go your own way because you're afraid, but also finding it very difficult, and just how you grate on each other's nerves over time. You know?
Yeah, because I think they kind of realize, like probably in normal life they would have gone their separate ways, but they know they'll survive better as a team.
And they're a little afraid. There is almost kind of a fear, though, of separating as well, just because it's an unknown thing, you know?
Yeah. And the actor, Jeremy Gardner, I think is his name, he's the director, he's the actor as well.
He's the beardy guy, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
So this was the director's first film, and have they done anything else since?
He's done one film since, it's called...
What's the director's name?
Jeremy Gardner.
Jeremy Gardner, okay.
He's done one film since, which I think was again made for about 10 grand. I just checked on IMDb, because I was curious what he went on to next. I think he's an actor as well, so he has appeared in other people's films, as an actor. But I'm not sure. I mean, I'm sure he'll do something next. I mean, it was just a very, very good film.
It's an interesting one, though, because I think it's a really successful film, actually, and definitely, again, you'll find it on places like Shudder or maybe Netflix. I'm not sure, but really worth watching. But I think someone told me that while it got loads of praise at the festivals and everything, it didn't do great commercially, simply because it is actually, just a really good film about two guys having problems, and it doesn't have those kind of, because we kind of live in a world nowadays where you need the shot for Fangoria, you need more gore shots, you need to have, and that's kind of, it's a pity. But then I do wonder, I would love to see him go on and do more films, but there is a chance that he's not going to get a chance at bigger budgets because there isn't that kind of return to make those kind of films, which is sad because it's actually really good. It's lower key, but I would rather watch that than a real cheap, cheesy, gory film. Yeah.
There was another horror director who I looked at, and just on the theme of directors who created almost a legacy with their first feature, which makes you kind of jealous. Tom Holland. Tom Holland, he directed the original Fright Night. Yeah,
Child's Play.
And went on to do Child's Play.
He wrote Psycho 2.
I was going to say, before he did Fright Night, he wrote Class of 1984, which is a cult classic, and Psycho 2. Then he did Fright Night. Went on to direct Child's Play, which is another classic franchise launcher. Also made The Langoliers.
Langoliers!
There is 2 or 3 films that it always comes back to in this podcast.
He also did another film that I have a soft spot for. It's probably a bit of a guilty pleasure. I don't know what you guys think. The Thinner. Have you guys seen Thinner?
Yeah, it's okay.
Like the book.
The
film,
book,
not so much.
I'm with you on that.
I think I saw the film first when I was probably maybe 12, and I was like, oh, this is cool, and then I read the book and I was like, okay, this is much better. Haven't seen it since.
Who wrote the book?
Stephen
King.
Okay.
Well, under Richard Bachman,
Yeah.
But then so I don't know, and he has something else coming out actually next year called Rock Paper Dead.
Amazing.
He's only back. I don't know, was it health issues or something? There was something that actually took him out of the picture for a while, and it really, he's been wanting to make films for a long time, and it's just, you hear about these guys who can't get back on. It's I don't know if anyone listens to the Shockwaves podcast. Your man who directed The Night Flyers, another Stephen King kind of one, but it took him 17 or 18 years to get his next, and he had nearly had about 4 or 5 films made in that time. Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake he virtually had, and a few others, and you kind of forget that there could be people who have actually been working non-stop. It's not like he stopped making films, but just stuff falling through or just bad timing and unfortunate moments, and then suddenly it's 18 years of your life you haven't made a film in. That scares me as a filmmaker.
That's the whole moss in the stone situation.
Absolutely. You gotta get that moss on the stone. It's the aim of any career.
Mossy,
But if I came out of a career with Fright Night and Child's Play under my belt, I'd be pretty happy,
Oh, absolutely.
Probably pretty rich as well, but also happy.
Well, see, no, I don't know. That's like when, everyone says to John Carpenter now how much they love The Thing, and he's like, yeah, what the fuck good does that do me? It's just, people didn't at the time. It was a disaster.
Like The Thing
and I don't know that those, obviously they do okay, but I don't think the returns are probably anywhere near as good as we imagine they are. Unless you're a producer and stuff, but I don't.
But you'd get the money off merchandising and marketing.
But for Child's Play, okay, there is still
and
all the dolls and stuff,
the remakes.
But I wonder if Don Mancini has that much more than Tom Holland, because he created the character.
True, actually. But John Carpenter, about The Thing, he said when he made that, he was like, I've done it. I've made a really solid, good horror film with great action and drama in it. And people didn't buy into it. People were like, no, I don't get it. it was a few years until people liked it. And of course, it's a classic now.
Yeah.
I'd love to believe if I saw it at the time, I would have said that's a brilliant film. But you wonder that, because like people are in different places.
I think you would have.
I would hope so.
I think you would have.
It's just it's so easy in retrospect to say I would have known that.
But, like, because we are the target audience for that film. But it was back then we're talking about the marketplace. We're talking about
what was popular back
the
then.
main audience. Exactly. They were not interested in super deadly fucking
but
set in the middle
creature
of
features.
yeah.
Do you think the gore then, like say in something like The Thing, would have been as extreme as us watching something like Martyrs Now? Like, was it that level of that's a whole
To
new
us
level?
back then.
Yeah, as in for the
Future.
viewers then, like the shock of the level of violence and the impressiveness of the effects, like that sort of, because it is incredibly graphic and gory still to this day. But if you weren't quite as prepared for it,
I would say yeah.
Yeah, I want
it's,
to
it's like when we go back to like Nosferatu and people actually thinking that Max Schreck was freaking vampire. Like it's when you haven't seen anything before, you're gonna buy into it. You're gonna believe it. When the train came towards the screen, people thought they were gonna die. It's that kind of thing. It's the unknown. But I do think that movie, we would have loved that movie. We don't like that movie just because
oh no, not nostalgic sense. Yeah,
and we need to like that movie because I don't like
well,
Halloween.
it's brilliantly acted. So, yeah, well, okay. So moving on from Ali's sorry, Connor.
Another director.
I mean, Halloween's okay.
Another director who I liked.
Have you seen their first film?
I have. I've seen most of these people's first films. Well, actually, just a quick side note. Another director, John Landis, of course, American Werewolf. Other films.
Was that his first film?
No. Yeah. His first film was a film called Schlock. SCHLOCK.
Oh, I don't think I ever seen it.
Has anyone seen it?
No.
It's about a banana killer who terrorizes a town. That's what it says on IMDb. And I couldn't find it. So
it's really hard.
I'm on. I always find my man. I never find my man. Anyone know Steve Miner's first film?
It's the guy who did Friday the 13th Part 2.
Oh, wow. I'm very impressed.
And also directed Halloween H2O later on.
Yes, he did. This guy is...
And he did something else, but because Part 2 and Part 3 of Friday the 13th.
Part 3, exactly. And he doesn't write his films. He doesn't have any... Well, according to IMDb, he doesn't have the writing credits.
Right.
Don't know how, involved he is in rewrites.
I really like Part 2. I think Part 2 is the strongest.
Part 2
for me.
is the Jason one, isn't
it?
Part 2 is the...
Baghead Jason.
Is it Baghead or Hockey Mask? I can't remember.
No, Hockey Mask came in the third one.
Okay, yeah. But that was him too. So he was the first.
Oh, he created the icon of Jason, absolutely.
But I got kind of jealous when I was looking at his filmography again, because aside from the horror stuff he's done, he also did Forever Young, which is, as we all know, the best Mel Gibson film ever made. And he directed The Wonder Years, My Father the Hero, and Big Bully.
Wow.
If anyone saw Big Bully with Tom Arnold and Rick Moranis, which was just... his film was just... His career was basically all of the 90s comedy films there. And he did a remake of Day of the Dead in 2008.
Oh, that was the one I looked at. That was the stinker. That is pretty unwatchable.
Yeah.
Day of the Dead.
Day of the Dead remake, not Dawn, yeah. Which being that's Zack Snyder's first film.
Yeah. What did people think of Halloween H2O when it first came out?
I'm going to go on record and say I actually quite like H2O. I think it is one of the better sequels. But I do love the Halloween franchise. But it did like what Rocky 6 did and a few others. They kind of jettisoned the in-between films and brought Jamie Lee Curtis back, and they did pretty good justice to it, I thought.
It was Scream mixed with Michael Myers.
It was a silly name.
Yeah, it's an incredibly stupid name.
Halloween Water.
I have to say, at the time, I did think that was a cool name.
But because it is still said H2O,
but it's sober on Halloween. It's giving us a message.
But you see, the only sad thing about H2O is whether you liked it as a film or not, it would have been a good and strong ending for the franchise. And as a fan, I was excited that Resurrection was coming along. And who didn't want to see Busta Rhymes fight Michael Myers with Kung Fu?
The start. Okay. Spoilers for Halloween Resurrection, right? But you deserve spoilers.
It's a great start because it's like, how on earth have they brought this franchise back?
Exactly, right. So first of all, they go and kill off Jamie Lee. You never kill off Jamie Lee.
Well,
Curtis.
they had to. She wasn't coming back because 7 was meant to be the last one.
Right. So at the start of Halloween, the film where Jamie Lee Curtis never dies, they're just like Halloween Resurrection. They're like, okay, so we're going to kill her, and then at the end of Halloween H2O, we see her ultimately chop off Michael Myers' head with an axe, which is what fans have been saying for years. Just cut his head off. Cut his head off and take it away so it won't reattach.
And it's conclusive. Like, this is not like a maybe.
It won't just crawl back over there.
As we know from Ali, he's not supernatural.
He's not supernatural. Exactly. I'm telling you.
Exactly. He just can handle multiple stab wounds.
Oh, do you
Because all of his organs are probably just in his head, inside the mask. That's the mask.
No,
Ali, he's mocking you. He's not with you.
Oh.
I'm not with you.
I also
He's so evil that he transcends like
exactly. Thanks very much.
Human.
Actually, does this not prove because he does come back? Has he ever come back after the head chopping off?
He did 8.
But
Can you explain that?
Well, no, he doesn't.
The trick.
It's the genius.
It was a cheap trick in Halloween Resurrection. So at the end of Halloween H2O, we see Jamie Lee Curtis chop off his head with an axe. We're great. Okay, happy with that. He's gone. It's over. But we want to make some more money, so we're going to make another movie. It's called Halloween Resurrection.
So how do they do it, Connor?
So how do we do it? So we see a flashback at the start of H2O. We see a bloody flashback to, instead of it being Michael Myers in the mask, at the very last second, Michael Myers takes off his mask and puts it onto
someone else, some
random dude, and he's trapped up against a tree. There's like a van crashed into him and a tree or something, so he can't speak. So Jamie Lee Curtis is like, here we go, I'm going to end it once and for all. Meanwhile, there's some poor innocent guy behind the mask. She chops his head off. Michael Myers goes off and hides for a little while.
Point proven that Michael Myers is not supernatural.
I don't know how you say that's a point proven. And I'd get into an argument with you, but we've got limited time. So I'm going to save that one.
We had a very good conversation the other day about and I proved to you.
This is Ali talking to Conor McMahon for everyone who's listening.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Because you were up at the bar.
And there'd be Ali pointing at me.
I was, oh shit. Oh,
so what you say is,
sorry.
Mark was at the bar and she was speaking to Conor.
Bar. But it makes me sound like, it's really hard. Okay, and Conor and I were talking about it, and I can't remember what my points were, but you actually went like this.
Was this not on our podcast one?
No, it was over drinks. Sorry, for all our listeners, we had a post-podcast conversation last week over a few beers. And
we forgot to record.
Disagreed on things. But no, I think we will save the Halloween talk for another day, so you can hear me shouting at Ali for an hour and a half. But
yeah, I got a bit worked up there because I was so infuriated with Halloween Resurrection.
Resurrection's poor. H2O would have been a good
totally, ending. Dishonored the entire franchise by doing just the absolute ridiculous and unforgivable. So I'll only give it 4 stars out of 5.
So here, Mark, did you watch any more?
Yeah, sorry. So there was actually there's a group of 4 French filmmakers I'd like to have just a quick talk about. Just worthy of mention, I think. So you've got obviously Alexandre Aja, who did Switchblade Romance or Haute Tension or High Tension, depending on which country you're in.
Yeah.
It was one that I rewatched recently. I saw it in the cinema and it actually blew me away at the time. It was one of the most violent things I'd seen in Irish cinemas. I guess I was probably about 18. He smashes guys head. Well, like in fairness, the film starts with a scene where he's skull fucking someone. Like you see the heads, they hear the moaning, and he throws it out the car window. But I think that's actually too much, and it's kind of unfortunate because it's cheesier and gorier. There's a big chunk of the film, about 45 minutes, is just a girl hiding in the house while this guy's going around killing, and it's just really, really well done. There's a twist at the end which I don't like, and I don't think it's necessary, but when you go back and watch the film, it rattles along the whole way through, but it doesn't just rely on gore and violence, so it does use those things. And it's just worth watching how a tightly paced kind of thrill ride can go through. And he obviously went on to do the Hills of Eyes remake, the pretty abysmal Mirrors with Kiefer Sutherland, Piranha remake, and a couple of other things.
Which is also really good.
A recent one, The Ninth Life of Louis St. Drax or something like that. Kind of interesting, but kind of a fantasy thing. But it's just, he started off with that film, and if you haven't seen it, or if you haven't seen it in a while, I'd say definitely go back and watch it, because it was part of that French new wave of pretty violent and rough and gritty films. There's a lot of talk about it being a rip-off of something else, but I actually haven't seen the film that apparently it rips off. But so there's that one. There's the director of Martyrs, I hadn't realised, Pascal Laugier, I think. He directed a film before that called House of Voices, or Saint-Ange is its original French title. And I actually just watched it. You can get it on YouTube, rent it for $2.99. And it's a weird one. It's produced by Christopher Gans, who did Brotherhood of the Wolf and Silent Hill.
I freaking love Brotherhood of the Wolf.
But so, you can kind of see his kind of visual Silent Hill sort of influences on it. It's kind of your traditional ghosty, a girl comes to live in an abandoned orphanage. Guess what? Maybe there's people there. But it's it's kind of traditional that way. It's a little bit creepy, a little bit slow in parts, but you can see where these ideas kind of filtered onto the ones that he brought to Martyrs then, because it's 2 girls working together, one who's kind of mentally disturbed and another one helping her. There's obviously spirits who's affecting the mentally disturbed person. They're working together against it. The third act reveal is the discovery of a big basement, very clinical, clean basement, with a religious matriarch who's running it. So there's, you can see how this kind of much more standard, very kind of Americanized horror film could have led him on to actually making Martyrs. So if you really like Martyrs, worth checking out. Because he hasn't, I think he's only done one film since then, The Tall Man with Jessica Biel. Not great.
So what was the name of his first one?
House of Voices is the English name. And they filmed it in French and English at the same time, so they shot it in both languages.
No way.
Which is kind of interesting. And it also has Katrina McCall in it from City of the Living Dead and The Beyond and things like that. So it's nice to see kind of some of those actors again. I'd say about 2 years before Martyrs. So when was Martyrs? 2006? 2004? I don't know.
I think it was 2004.
Sometime, it could be that long. God, it's getting a bit scary because I still think of them quite recent films. I'll move on quickly. Another great, very difficult French film called Inside. L'Intérieur.
Difficult, you say?
Well, difficult because it's a difficult film. It's tough.
Wow.
About a heavily pregnant woman who's home alone, and someone turns up at her door and basically has decided that baby in her stomach is going to be hers, and she's ready to claim it now.
Oh my goodness.
But it's just, without getting into the scenes in it, it takes its time. It's tense. It doesn't just go straight into kind of violence or anything like that. But yeah, it's aggressive, it's scary, and definitely not the kind of film you want to be watching with someone who is in any way pregnant or maybe soon. It builds
who knows
to
what
a
pregnancy is in general.
Yeah, it's like the I2. It's just no.
Once a friend of mine rang me up, and she was pregnant, about to have a baby, and she rang me up and started giving out to me down the phone because she knew I would like The Human Centipede. She thought that was disgusting.
Randomly.
Just randomly, yeah.
Totally random. Didn't even know that I would have watched The Human Centipede.
So she's given out to you in advance of her unborn child because you will like a movie that her unborn... Wait, what?
You're everything, as in you're everything that's wrong with the world?
Kind of, yeah.
Right,
I think it was sort of along those lines.
It's one of when some people get really offended by those kind of things, the anger gets spilled out into, do you know who would have enjoyed that? And they feel the need to give out to them.
And they feel guilty for knowing
I don't understand that. That's so unfair. That's like the same as being racist. Do you know what I mean?
Except not.
Racist towards human centipedes anyway. And they are
No,
up
like
and coming.
being so judgmental of somebody for absolutely no reason.
I'm sure there was a tint of playfulness in her.
No.
That was hilarious. There really wasn't.
She was just lashing out at you
like,
because
"What
she
did
heard
I do?"
about...
I mean, I found it quite amusing.
I thought the idea... It's the idea of the human centipede that is so scary.
Genuinely disturbing concept.
I
Absolutely.
I don't love the movie, but I love the idea.
The first one's okay. As far it's fine.
It's okay.
Was she right? Are you into that sort of thing?
The Human Centipede? Or what they do.
Are you into Human
Or
Centipede?
As to Meg.
The film.
Well, let's start with the first one and work our way down that list.
Kevin Smith.
I have to say, I saw The Human Centipede at Fright Fest in London, and it was, I think, the first screening, or the first European screening anyway. And whatever about the film, there's always a film every year that everyone's talking about. Like, you can always tell the hit film by when you go to the bathroom after the movie, everyone in the cubicles and whatever is all talking about a particular film.
And they're all connected as to in the cubicle. That was my first clue. That was my first clue.
But you're right, yeah. Part of that marketing thing, I think Tom Six is a smart guy that way. I think he knows that through offending people.
I've never seen the film, and I've probably talked about it more than most movies I've ever talked about.
I say with all these films, right? People can say whatever they want to film, but usually it's effective when it's affecting people like this. And I mean, that's part of pop culture now. The Human Centipede.
Is the second one the one where they have a human centipede that goes
bad.
around the world?
The second one, that's it. Because for me, the first one is a fair horror film, and it's like... it is. There's very disturbing ideas, even though what's in your mind is actually a lot worse than what's in the film. The film actually doesn't. There are gross moments in it, but it's not anywhere near as explicit as your imagination
it's what
goes.
You're thinking.
The
when
second
you're
one
it.
pushes for me becomes much more kind of vile and sleazy and
it is.
Wow. Okay.
Is
gross.
I heard that there was a scene with some sandpaper.
Yes, masturbating with sandpaper. Yeah,
and then there was also another scene. I don't know if it made it into the cut because this is what my dad and I talk about on a Saturday. That there was
what are you talking about on a Sunday?
You don't want to know. Where a woman gave birth to a baby in a car.
The
baby came out and got stuck under the brake pedal.
No, I don't know. That's not human. I don't think it is. It could be. No, I know because there was obviously Centipede 2 was the first film to be banned by the BBFC in a long, long time, and there was serious cuts that had to be taken to it. Yeah. As far as I know, I've seen the uncut version, but I don't quite remember. But I did only see it once and was bothered. It does. There's a pregnant woman as part of it because again, this is what bothers me about Tom Six and his sort of approach to Centipede 2. It starts off with kind of a meta interesting idea of it's a fan of the first film. Yeah. And that whole depravity and everything. Which is it's an interesting idea. Angle, yeah. But like he push it. Well, he goes from the whole idea of the human centipede, for anyone who doesn't know, which I'm sure anyone listening to this does know, it's basically three people connected together ass to mouth.
If you don't know, you're probably Googling it. But
what they
don't look at the Google image.
The sad part is for Centipede 2, like it's just like he sat at home and tried to think, how can I make this more controversial or more disgusting? Yeah. And so like, well, I'll make the last person a pregnant woman. And I'll make the guy who doing it a pervert as well as a psycho. And that will involve rape and all these other things. And it's an area of horror that I kind of find a bit sad because you can go disturbing. I really don't mind that. Like Martyrs is incredibly disturbing, but I don't like it being used as a cheap scapegoat for people to get their own perverted kicks out on. And I know you could argue that about a lot of things, but yeah, there's just
intent
it's
is
also
not genuine.
It's laziness. I feel it's
Absolutely.
like it's ego. It's like, oh, I made this amazing movie that everybody's talking about. Everybody's grossed out by it. How can I gross them out more? Because I'm that amazing.
Well, you're feeding what I would call the lowest common denominator of horror fans, and I know that's going to upset some people, but like it's just I do think there's certain films out there that are made for that corner, and it's not what the average horror fan.
I'd say there's horror fans out there who have probably seen Human Centipede and liked it and said, well, you know what? Yeah, I liked it, but I know it's all a bit mad. Like, you know what I mean? I know it's
absolutely.
A bit of
just having a bit of a laugh. Yeah, the first one is a bit of a laugh. Like,
it is.
And has anyone seen the Key and Peele's Human Centipede sketch?
No.
It's so funny. Basically, the premise is there's a guy sitting at a restaurant having lunch with his girlfriend. His girlfriend gets up to go to the bathroom, and another guy comes over and goes, "Hey, do I know you from somewhere?" He goes, "No, I don't think we've ever met." And he goes, "Were we in a Human Centipede together?" And then he's like, no, that wasn't me. He's like, "Are you sure?" "I think you were the butt. You were the butt, weren't you?" And then it goes on like that. And then the other guy comes along. It's like, "Oh, hey, it's the mouth, it's the butt."
That's hilarious.
It's a good sketch.
I've got one last French one just to finish that part off. Have you guys seen Il, Them?
Oh yeah, I love this film.
Really strong film. Connor, do you want to talk about it?
Oh, well.
Wait, is this the original? There was a remake, wasn't there?
Yeah, well...
Well, Strangers is kind of a rip-off of it, sort of.
Basically, what happened was I think they were going to make a remake.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, Strangers ended up being the remake.
This is the Baghead people?
Awful.
Kind of, yeah. Liv Tyler and everything else.
Now, it's a very, very different... I mean, I've seen Ills about 8 or 9
times.
Me too.
You talk about it all.
I love it. I think it's brilliant.
I think it's one of those ones where it's such a simple film. Like it's, a couple in a house basically, and they're intruders. And I think the filmmakers, they did a survey before they started filming, and they asked people what was the thing they were most afraid of, and home invasion was the thing that everyone ticked. So they basically come up with this home invasion idea. But I'm trying to think why it was so different. I think it's not a found footage, but it has a very realistic feel.
Very handheld, but like in a very controlled way, but that gives it, there's an immediacy to it.
Yeah.
That feels...
Yeah, and the other thing about it is the intruders, it was one of the first films where it started, like Eden Lake was kind of in that zone where the intruders were like, I mean, I don't know if I'm giving it away by saying...
You're not, I don't think, yeah.
Basically local kids, it turns out,
Hoodies,
basically, yeah. And there's something just terrifying about it.
Wow.
It's the fact that, I think, because, it's a couple in a house, and I don't like invasion films as a traditional type thing, and Il doesn't go the direction of the torture thing or anything, really. It's much more the horror of the fear and the tension and how terrifying it is, much more than graphic violence. So there is some violence in it. But, the fact that they're a very normal couple, they're real people in this house, and they kind of behave in realistic ways. But these guys are clearly playing with them. It's like the whole turning on the television, turning off. It's letting someone know you're in the house, but where are you? And feeling, which is something that even Michael Myers did in Halloween, obviously a great film. But it's the lack of need for an immediate attack. They're
Halloween about the supernatural guy?
That would be the supernatural guy, Michael Myers. But no, it's just because they're not in any rush. They're not looking to see, because this is the whole point. They're not trying to kill this couple or anything like that. they're just there to fuck with them.
Yeah.
And that's quite scary. Yeah. And it doesn't even hide the fact that it's hoodied kids. Really, like there's a little bit of a reveal later on, but even there's scenes where you see like a guy wearing a hood, but it's all black underneath. You don't see the face there, but it doesn't kind of try and hide it or make it seem more than that. And it's still chilling. There's one or two shots that just sort of reveal someone standing behind this plastic, and it's genuinely frightening and just really, really tense. And it has that whole what would you do, which again, like House of the Devil or what were we talking about earlier on, a Switchblade Romance, kind of that kind of thing of if you're stuck in a house, how do you actually realistically behave and manage that moment? And
it's almost told in real time as well.
Yes.
It's got this real time sort of, you know, the minute it kicks off, it's kind of going, and it's just literally about them trying to get out of the house and get away.
So this is another director's first film.
It's two guys actually, David Moreau and Xavier Pelot, I think is how you pronounce it. But it was a shot in, I think, Romania or Hungary. I'm not sure. So they're French directors, and it's in French, but it's shot in a different country. And because she's a teacher in a different country, right. But they're a French couple. But yeah, and again, one of those weird things. You look at that, and I just think so much potential. And I think they went on to do the awful I remake. In America, but again, that was one of the things.
Jessica Alba one.
Yeah, and I love the original of that, but like they were brought over because of this brilliance they did with that film, and then the studio interference, because that was a big thing of bringing a European director over to Hollywood. They'll make this great thing, they make something slightly different. You're off, and you know
that happens.
They haven't made a film since, I don't think.
Occasionally, you get these great. Underground success stories of world cinema, like I'm thinking
well, even Del Toro on Mimic,
or
Fincher on Alien 3.
The guy who did I can't think of the director's name, but he made Tropa de Elite Squad, the Brazilian film.
Very intense.
1 and 2, the first one and the second one.
Did you do the RoboCop remake?
He did the RoboCop remake. So it's like they see these great films and they go, let's bring this guy in. It'll give us a bit of an interesting style on the film. And then I don't know if it's a studio situation, if there's too many cooks in the kitchen or whatever happens.
Given the guy who made Elite Squad, a PG-13 RoboCop remake just seems like a weird, because Elite Squad is intense.
It's for anyone who hasn't seen Elite Squad, Tropa de Elite is the Brazilian name. Fantastic. When you mentioned their home invasion films, you're not too keen on. I just, as you said that, I thought of 3 home invasion films that I quite really liked, and one that I really think is laughably bad. But first of all, Straw Dogs, the original.
Oh, absolutely. Love that,
But I don't think that's a horror.
Incredible.
Not necessarily. I'd consider that like a domestic horror thriller kind of thing.
It's definitely like a thriller drama.
Right, okay,
not
cool.
a horror. It's amazing though.
It goes pretty far in the final climax. I think that's where it could dip into it.
The home invasion part of it. Yeah, true. I suppose it's just that home invasion sequence.
But it's
probably the bit that I really remember from that film as being like...
Well, the rape.
Well, yes, but
the questionable approach
as
to
just
it,
being really like I remember it as being a really cool like action sequence. Dustin Hoffman kind of kicking into gear and boiling.
I think for anyone who's ever felt like they've been picked on during their life, there's a real cathartic delight in when he decides that they're not getting into my house, and it just whacks up that bagpipe music, whatever it is, to full volume, and just that anger, because it is that the whole film bubbles and bubbles, and that moment is just for all of us, Yeah,
not trap. It's like that snap.
Another one, another 2 from very recently. You're Next.
Oh yeah, love Adam Wingard. Yeah, actually tried to find his first film.
I did not like that. I think I texted you afterwards.
I love You're Next.
I was like,
that's one of my favorite over the last kind of couple of years.
That was really good.
What did you not like about it?
What did I not like about it?
Was it the fact they weren't supernatural?
Yeah.
You wanted them to be supernatural?
But this could really happen, like you were saying before.
Yeah, no, I know, but like it
was just nice to see it turned on its head, no? Like having a girl who can actually manage herself and actually...
It's just the idea of like, I don't want to sit down and watch a movie of people like invade my home. Like it's just I don't have I just
generally
don't
I'm
have
with you
time
on
for it. It's like it's the same way I am with certain thrillers, like certain crime thrillers. I'm like, oh Jesus, it's like going to be political. I don't want to sit down and like I want to escape. I don't really want to see people invade my home. It's not scary.
That bit though when someone tries to run out the door and they get the piano string.
Okay,
oh my god, I laughed so hard.
There is some good stuff, but ultimately, I just found it was, to be honest with you, just a lot of screaming.
Right.
It's like,
do you think like I'm trying to like I've seen it a couple of times, but like I don't know. Yeah, you're one. I don't know what the main girl's name in that, but she was really strong to me. I thought, and it was just it's one of those weird things where certain films like that work only because lots of other films exist, because it was a very clever twist on something, but so you did need those tropes to exist in other films so it wouldn't be clever on its own right, but it was enjoyable to see it, and I just thought the violence and the tension of it was handled kind of properly. Like, I like Adam Wingard. I tried to find his first film for this thing, actually. Bill Moseley was in it, believe it or not. Chopped off from Texas Chainsaw 2, and obviously Otis from Devil's Reject and Thousand Corpses, if for other people.
I was going to do
I couldn't remember. I couldn't find it. I can't remember what the name of it was. But again, one of those ones just couldn't seem to find, because he did A Horrible Way to Die, was a sort of his bigger breakthrough one, and then he went on to You're Next, The Guest, and Blair Witch.
One of the things that he did The Guest as well.
Yeah,
loved it. And Blair Witch. Oh wow, there's three films in a row that I quite enjoyed. I quite enjoyed that.
It's well worth watching.
Because I love the first one. I love the second Blair Witch. I don't care. Wow. I love it.
Joe Berlinger, the guy who directed the Metallica documentary as well, isn't it? Or did they did, and they did Lost Paradise, or what's the one about the kids, the True Life documentary? Yeah. Yeah, same director.
But it's like it's those it's that 90s grungy, like I just love that 90s grungy feel, like later on in the 90s, not like, you know.
Apparently his original vision for that is better, because they didn't think there was enough horror in it, and so they kind of brought in the whole hospital stuff at the very beginning, that you weren't meant to have any of those kind of reveals, so it was meant to be a much more psychological thing. But I guess they wanted it, well, they say they wanted it closer to the original, but then obviously someone must have read the script before they gave them the money to make it.
The best thing about Blair Witch 2 is the DVD commentary. It's honestly really interesting. The director's very interesting, but the film I thought was terrible.
But actually, sorry, go on, Connor.
Well, terrible as a film and also as a part of that series.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it killed the franchise.
It did. I agree. Like, it is definitely a standalone film that just happens to also involve
it seems
the
like
Blair
an
Witch,
unnatural sequel.
But when we're talking about first-time films, guys, so Blair Witch Project. So this was these guys' first films. And I think it would be fair to say, like, they haven't quite lived, or they haven't replicated that kind of success since. But they have done a few interesting films. Have people seen Lovely Molly?
Yeah.
No?
I thought that was quite good. Now, it falls apart a little bit as it goes down, but again, it is a found footage, I believe. Mostly, it shifts between the two, actually. But there's I don't want to give away too much about it, but there's that question of whether it is someone having a mental breakdown or whether there is something after her. And it actually works very well, because a good lead actress, again, a lot of these films really hang on those lead performances and whether they work or not, but of the later stuff those guys did, I can't remember which one. I think it was Daniel Myrick who did it, but don't quote me too much on that. Because it was the Eduardo Sanchez, I think. Yeah. But that's one worth checking out. That's again on Shudder and Netflix, I think. And the other one is a bit of fun. Is Exists, the found footage Bigfoot film.
What's it called?
Oh yeah,
it's a bit of a laugh. It Exists.
It's like in the vein of Troll and all that.
Well, yeah, they've got a lot of GoPros and a lot of stuff going on.
It's not the Bobcat Goldthwait one, no?
No, that's Legend of Boggy Creek. No,
Willow. It's the greatest name I've ever heard.
No, that's the original. That's the original Bigfoot film.
Boggy Creek too.
Yeah, which
it's amazing.
Can I say before we go on, The Legend of Boggy Creek, one of the most successful independent films of all time, made for $100,000 and brought in something like 80 million.
Wow.
It just came out at the time in the 70s. It's based on true life accounts. So it's basically people retelling their story, and
in
really
Ireland,
poor actors. No, in America.
It's not a good film.
No, it's not a good film.
I gotta write it down to not watch.
It is interesting because like they just basically restate. So it's like watching like Crime Watchers or someone like redoing like, and then I looked out the window. And
how is it so successful?
It hit at a time that there was all this talk, because it's the Fok or something. It's not Sasquatch. There's another kind of folklore creature in America that it is, but
the New Jersey
the Chupacabra.
No, it's the Fok or something, I think.
Fok.
No, I know it's good, but I'm pretty sure it is Fauke. I think.
Damn you, Fok.
But it's just one of those, and there's a lot of films like that in history that they just hit at a time where there was no other films out there about that topic. People believed or were a bit more into those notions at the time, and there was just that rush of excitement of, you're going to see the film about Bigfoot or whatever it is. So you got to respect for what it is, but it's not a particularly good film. But Exists is not a particularly good film either, but it is good fun, and without being a spoiler, Bigfoot does turn up. So for people who hated Blair Witch because there was no witch in it, in Exists, Bigfoot does turn up towards the end, and it's a bit of fun,
but that was the best part about the Blair Witch, though.
For me, absolutely. But I know a lot of people took against it for that reason.
Really?
Oh yeah, lots of people hate Blair Witch.
What?
I think the Blair Witch.
The first one?
Yeah,
that's only because they think the girl's annoying. She seems to be.
And I didn't find that either, though.
I didn't know. Not at all.
The Blair Witch is a masterclass in viral marketing.
Oh yeah,
like,
but I still, because everyone talks, and I do agree with that, but I don't think their marketing was very clever. But I still think the film stands up without that.
It does.
I agree. No, I do agree, but it wouldn't have gotten such a wide audience, such a far reach for such a micro budget affair if it didn't have so much created mythology around it. Like they created I remember watching documentaries on TV at the time.
Well, they made another one, The Legend of Blair Witch.
A legend in every town in America and all this stuff, and that was all fabricated.
Originally that was meant to be spliced in with the original film, and because it was going to be like The Last Broadcast, where it was a mixture of these talking heads and this footage, but they just jettisoned it all, and I think that's so much better, because even though it's lovely to hear those backstories, and actually even more interesting when you love the film to be able to dig into that later on. But I think the film holds because you don't really even know. It's so unapologetic, and we live in a world where everyone wants to explain everything. Like even when you're writing a script, the notes you kind of get is like, well, we can't have a creature unless we know where was he born, why, what did his dad do?
How do his powers work, and why are they?
There's nothing left to the imagination.
Why was Pazuzu so angry?
Pazuzu.
But Blair, just to keep talking about Blair Witch for a minute, you mentioned about Legend of Boggy Creek being one of the most successful
independent films in time. Yeah,
is Blair Witch the most successful?
It was. By far, when
I remember hearing
they
made it for like 30 grand and they made like 50 million or something like that at the time.
It was made for, I think, even less than 30 grand supposedly, but again, this is one of those things, because I remember when we were making Chrome Wood, I was talking to my sound guys about it to try and figure out how they did, because they shot that film so roughly and they didn't plan for it to be anywhere near as big as this. So actually, there was nearly 900 grand worth of repair work done on the audio and stuff and ADR to try and make that film releasable.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? So it's not that kind of, I think that was the danger for a lot of people afterwards who thought, I literally can just run out there and you don't have to worry about that stuff. There was a major cost in the background, and the same with Paranormal Activity had, I think, nearly $250,000 worth of work done on it.
Nowadays it's probably more achievable to get your film made for the small money because the technology has advanced. But
you just got to get it right the first time.
What were they shooting on, DV or something like that?
One of them was. The other one was, it was a DAT. They recorded the sound on a DAT recorder, so it was perfectly good sound, and they had a 16mm camera as the black and white footage you're seeing. But the other one was a high 8, straight up. But then that gives you that beautiful quality that nowadays we find ourselves trying to replicate with filters and everything like that and dirtying it up. But
that movie's great.
I watched a couple of other things. I'll just run through them briefly. So I started watching the Exorcist TV series.
Oh yeah.
So I'm 4 episodes in,
and
I'm really enjoying it, I have to say.
Everyone seems really positive on it.
Yeah, it's like what's good about it? I think one of the things I'm really enjoying about it is in every episode there's one little nod to the movie, because it's not exactly like the film. Like Gina Davis basically plays the Ellen Bernstein.
Okay.
All right.
How do you pronounce her
name? Ellen Burstyn, yeah.
Ellen Burstyn plays her character, and so I think she's quite solid. Do you know what I mean? As that role, and there's two daughters instead of one daughter, so it's not exactly. And one of the priests, the kind of Max von Sydow priest, he's like Begbie from Trainspotting,
Robert Carlyle.
It's not him, but it's basically like this
that type of character.
Yeah,
and,
it's
and
really.
Can I just stop you there? There's 2 possessed daughters, not one. They upped the ante there, didn't they?
Well, there's 2 daughters where you're not really sure in the first episode which one of them is possessed.
Because they're twins, are they? So they can do the twin thing where they can pass the...
They're not twins.
Damn it, I was reading up a lot about twins.
The twins can do? Pass the parcel?
Have you heard of this? I was reading up a lot about it during the week for absolutely God knows what reason. It's like there's this all these cases of these twins that have simultaneous psychosis. So there was these 2 girls a couple of years ago. They met up for a day. They were Swedish. They met up in London for a day, and they both just lost the plot at the same time. So they got on a bus. They started drinking like mad. They got off the bus on the motorway because they were like shit-faced. The bus driver was like, I couldn't give a fuck, off on the motorway. They ran across the motorway, like one after the other. Just both of them lost their marbles. Then they got put into a psychiatric home. One of them got let out because they were like, oh no, she's normal. She was just having a momentary psychosis while this sister has psychosis. And then this one went off and murdered someone because in this cell, she was like still fucking insane, so she went insane. Wow. So there's all of these ties that twins apparently have.
Sounds like
there's a story in there.
Banksy the film arts. I called it. I think when did that happen, Ali?
That was a couple of years ago.
I think I might have heard someone recount that story on Snap Judgment, which is the podcast I was telling you about before.
It's really interesting. Yeah. There's loads of cases of it. Like, obviously there's the flora and fauna. They're from the Addams Family. Sorry, I can't actually remember their real names. But the
You
ones that
talking about Wednesday and Pugsley?
no, Flora and Fauna. Flora.
Are you talking about the twins who founded Rome?
Totally sounds.
The what?
The twins who founded Rome?
Oh, Romulus and
Remus.
Remus. No. Flora and Fauna in the Addams Family. No, guys.
Her name is Flora in The Innocents.
They're so you know the original. They're in Freaks. They're in Freaks.
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Conjoined twins is what I'm trying to say. Conjoined. And they both. It's the same thing. I mean, this is a different case because they were conjoined but they still had their own minds. But they both just gave up on life and just killed themselves.
Wow.
So
that happy note.
How did the twins play into The Exorcist?
So they're not twins.
They're not twins.
So without giving much away, but yeah, there's really nice nods, I think, to the original film.
But not distracting.
No, because it's just very for example, in the second one, the girl just feels sick and she just gets sick into a toilet, but it's green. It's like pea green. It's just this very small little nod.
Because it can be tricky handling those kind of references without pulling people out of the newer story,
Yeah. I mean, it's very much the original film, but it's I read a book during the year called Head Full of Ghosts, which was really cool. And what that was it was basically to some degree the Exorcist story.
Okay.
But it was told from the point of view of the younger daughter. So basically there was two sisters in the book, but the younger one was about 8. And it was told from her point of view of what it would be like to have an older sister who's been possessed and her not really understanding why her sister was crawling up the wall.
Okay.
And it was but just that little shift in a point of view kind of made it a different
Absolutely.
thing,
No, it sounds good.
And sort of the same with this, just having very small little differences does make it a different type of story, And obviously it's set in present day as well. So, there's mobile phones and all these kind of things. So it becomes something slightly different.
Still set in, was it Boston?
Washington, I think. Wasn't it the first time?
Yeah. What's the name of the college? That, never mind.
Berkeley. So
it's not Berkeley.
It's something. It's not. I keep thinking Blair, but there's something. I don't know.
Anyway, sorry.
I have sometimes I'm a bit apprehensive about these, TV shows that they've turned into films.
Because a lot of them aren't great.
Are they a cash in? Sometimes I find that you have their hour-long episodes, and each episode is like a scene from the film that we've already
From Dusk
seen.
Till Dawn?
From Dusk Till Dawn, for example.
I had to give it up. After 3 episodes, I was 10 minutes into the film after 3 hours of the TV show.
It's awful.
You know what did, I think, really nail it? And it's in the second season now, Ash vs. Evil Dead. Has anyone been watching that?
I
know. I have to. I've heard a lot of good stuff about that, actually.
It's actually just so good.
I'll be able to report next week.
It's not. It's really, really bad. But I freaking love it. I think it's amazing. It is.
Ali, I'm going to start getting your phrases printed on t-shirts. I love it.
No, but I love Ash versus Evil Dead. And can I just say, this has been bothering me. I only got through 2 episodes of From Dusk Till Dawn. And what really freaking bothered me about that movie, and it's something so small.
The TV series or the movie?
The TV series, yeah. Sorry, excuse me, because I love the movie.
Is this a new TV series, by the way?
No, it's on season 3.
Yeah,
Robert
on
Rodriguez.
Netflix.
Rodriguez himself remake, but it's literally, the opening scene of From Dusk Till Dawn, the famous scene in the shop with the Gecko Brothers and stuff. That is the whole first episode.
Yeah.
So that 5-minute sequence, which was great, is now an hour long and not great with less good actors.
Yeah.
It's
awful.
Now I think it has apparently branched off into its own stuff, and apparently maybe that's why it's working. But I couldn't. I just couldn't.
No. But this bothers me. So I'm obviously a big George Clooney fan. I think he's gorgeous. I think he's great. He's amazing. I love him. He's a great director as well. But Clooney has his own, the way Jack Nicholson. We all know Jack Nicholson's little quirks that he does on screen, and the same with George Clooney. He has all these little little ticks. The freaking actor was copying his little ticks.
Oh, they are, yeah. But they're model. The main actors, they're model, good-looking guys, and they've none of that rough edge.
No.
Who would say George Clooney had the rough edge? But he does him from Dusk Till Dawn, and he does pretty damn well.
But he had to, that was something so small, and it just pissed me off every single time. He just moved his head in a certain way, and I'm like, that's the way George Clooney has his little head.
Part of the magic in from the original Dusk Till Dawn as well was that you kind of had George Clooney playing against type too. He was normally the kind of handsome doctor, good
saving
guy.
Lives.
Yeah.
Saving lives.
He was
doing
the opposite of saving lives, whatever that is.
He never took a life.
He's very unhinged.
Danny Gecko never took a life.
No?
Well, good memory.
Well, he did. He took a lot of vampires' lives.
Oh, so vampires don't count? Vampire lives matter.
Oh.
I'm so sorry. I touched a nerve over there.
I've got quick, just two other ones worth mentioning, just as our the end of the
I'm so
the
jealous
first time
of your
directors
life.
things.
You watched loads of movies.
I worked hard on this one actually because it was interesting to me. I think as well because after making the first film and trying to figure out how I'm going to make the second one, there's a lot to be learned of watching what people are doing with money. So it's kind of it suited me recently. But so Ty West, who did House of the Devil, which I love, though. Not as crazy about the Innkeeper stuff. I looked at his first two films, The Roost, which was shown at the Hearthon years and years ago, which I didn't like and other people did, but I gave it a go again. Still think it's awful. Very, very low budget, but real cheesy, and Tom Noonan's in it again.
Is it about a rooster?
No, it's about bats, kind of, but then the people they buy turn into zombies. But like made for next to nothing, and it got a lot of high fives at the time because it was made for next to nothing. But I think nowadays we have stuff made for next to nothing that's much better. Yeah. So there was a different in time. People were just impressed that you managed to make a film.
Did you watch The Innkeepers? Have you seen that one?
Yeah, I've seen that one. But he made another one after The Roost called Triggerman, which is even worse. Okay. Like it's three guys go camping in the woods, or they go hunting in the woods. Sorry, and someone just randomly shoots one of them, and then it's sort of a chase thing for the rest. But it's so cheap and poor. Like, obviously made for next to nothing. Larry Feston stars in it briefly. But what's mad to me is he went from that to House of the Devil. And I find that really bizarre, that step up. Because for me, that's a brilliantly crafted film. Yeah. And written. And just, you honestly would not watch these films and think, I would never have looked at them and say, give that guy money.
He was getting
Do you know what I mean?
He was getting his shit out.
But it says to you, though, like, that you wonder how many good people, though, like, where, and even the way Hitchcock had a ton of films behind his back before he started making his supposed classics, like, nowadays we judge everyone on that opening weekend or the success of their first film. You'd wonder how many great people we've potentially missed out on. Yeah.
Or how many people who have just lost the steam after those first two, maybe three films that didn't work out.
Just to find their groove.
It's so hard. It is weird.
It was just worrying because they're really so poor compared to the ones, and it just, like, I don't know quite how you make it better, and it could be another podcast day to kind of talk about, other people getting their first chances at these things, but like, it is... It's a real lesson to not completely judge people. Yeah. I think actually the fact that he made two films for next to nothing probably is what you should look at and say, that's incredibly impressive. Especially and that's what gave him the drive to go on. And obviously he met people like Larry Feston who helped him make House of the Devil. So, I guess the right people might recognize it, but we probably need to be more supportive of...
completely. It's that ladder that we have to keep climbing. It's like we can't just push you down just because you slip up on one.
But unless you jump the stairs in one go, there's no point you having, taking it one step at a time kind of thing.
But I think it's the case of anybody that sort of made it, as it were. You can always look back and see that they, the majority of people don't just sort of sail through.
That's it. And I think, even from studying all of these directors' first films and looking at their careers thereafter, it like Mark is saying about not judging people on their first film, you can see across the board, it's not as if we've looked at all these films and say, oh, everyone got it right the first time, or oh, everyone got it right the second time. It's such a mixed bag. It seems to be different for every director. Yeah. There's your occasional George Romero who made Night of the Living Dead, but then if you look at like the rest of his career, he did the other two in that trilogy, and there weren't many more legendary films after that.
They weren't huge hits. I think Martin is a great film, and I like The Crazies as well. But yeah, I know what you mean by that. But I like what I would kind of want to put out from that though is just again to the people who want to be making their own films or are afraid of it and everything. It's just the not being afraid of that. Like, there's so much pressure on why are you doing that? It won't be any good. It won't be worthwhile. Even like, say, Ty West's first films, because I'm pretty sure Triggerman, you'll find it on YouTube. I don't know if he knows it's up there. But it's... Even if no one sees it, even if it didn't get into any festivals or anything like that guy made it and it was part of his progression that allowed him to go on there. So we have to start kind of reevaluating what we're going to decide is a success. And also for those filmmakers who are being intimidated from making their stuff, even if you make it with your friends, even if you do it at home. Connor, I know you started making a lot of shorts at home, your own way. Like, you've got to, don't be worrying about what that end product is going to be, who's going to see it, how successful will it be. Make the thing,
you need to learn from your mistakes. Absolutely. You need to keep on growing. So I completely agree, and we should not judge anyone in our lives for that matter.
Speaking of mistakes,
Connor, you better remove me from the podcast.
I watched the film last night.
Oh, it was a mistake.
It was called Shakma.
Shakma.
I watched the trailer, after talking about it.
I haven't seen the trailer. What's it like?
I was watching Shakma going, this is the opposite of Jaws. It's like...
because it's a monkey.
Well, basically, it's the art. The story is terrible. The lighting, the camera is horrible. The actors are terrible. But the monster, I'm not saying Jaws is a bad one, but I know they had a lot of trouble with the monster.
Yes.
But the Shakma himself is
he pulls it out of the back.
He chews up the scenery. Like,
in a good way.
Oh yeah.
He's
Is he real?
unbelievable.
Oh yeah, no, it's
When
a
you
full-on
take
baboon.
one
There's no
here-
puppets.
Baboon.
This
He's
is a real
killer
baboon.
Baboon. And he's absolutely, I don't know where they got him from. He's just like,
He's real.
like I'm actually scared of baboons.
Oh no, they're pretty sad. They are very violent
They
creatures.
are.
Like they're
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
scary.
This guy is
Rafiki will not,
unbelievable. Like when he comes to the door and like they run through a door and they slam it behind him, he runs up and first of all he's jumping at it trying to handle it. Then he's literally smashing his face, his whole face into the door.
So do you think someone basically discovered this killer baboon and we're like, right, we got to get
That's
this
what
guy,
it looks like.
get this guy a 3-picture deal. Just roll the camera on him. We'll figure out the story in the edit.
He trashes, like you see him going in and he's literally trashing the place. Like,
But it's when you see an animal go crazy, like they're very strong and they're very aggressive.
yeah. And the other thing I'll say for the film, because I thought I was just gonna like the last 45 minutes. It's do you know certain films as well? I couldn't predict who he was gonna kill.
Yes.
I don't think they could on set.
Yeah, no.
But like when the I don't know if it's Shakma or a puppet Shakma, but when he jumps on the people and he's biting them, and it's the most violent.
It is. Yeah, there's one or two quite shocking bits where you're kind of going, "Oh, I did not expect that to go there."
I need to watch. Where do I find it?
Shudder UK, you'll get it for there.
Like you have to get past the setup of the film is terrible. I
well,
don't even just
it's
mean,
the crap that you would expect in those kind of films. No, like
But it's all this stupid stuff like.
there's a lot of talk about the game.
Yeah, there's this thing called the game, and they're all in this building that's,
That we just lost.
That's
That game.
locked down. And it's like they've some computer. You got to get past all this and just get to the Shakma. Just go in 45 minutes.
When you say the Shakma, are you is the monkey actually called
his name is Shakma.
Shakma.
Like the way Jaws' name is Jaws.
But Shakma is basically the Terminator, so the Shakma works.
Shakma. I love it.
I would have believed if that baboon had walked through a wall of fire, I would have believed it. I'm just
Wow.
He does all his own stunts.
I won't say what happens in the end.
No, don't. I want to watch it. I'm going to get the Shudder thing. I was actually talking to them during the week because I was trying to find out, can I get this from my PlayStation? And they were like, no,
Not yet. No, but they
Sorry,
are.
but you can get it for your Apple TV or your iPad. And I was
It's worth checking out, and they're putting on new stuff and original things. Like there's good. That's where I saw
Like
the battery
Shakma
is on
too.
there as well.
I was legit having the chats with them. Like,
yeah.
Shakma's Revenge.
No, they're good guys who seem to really enjoy horror too.
Where are they based?
But there was an American one and a Canadian one. I think there might be other ones as well. But so they only launched in England just around Halloween last year. Yeah, Ireland and England.
Yeah.
It's €5 a month.
I'm getting my dad oh shit.
Hi, Dad.
Tell him on your Saturday talk.
So there's this movie called Shakma, and here's how you can watch it, Dad.
Has anyone else got a recommendation of something maybe people might want to check out they mightn't have heard of?
Well, I was just going to say that I rewatched. Have you noticed my 90s look? I rewatched The Craft, and it's gotten into my head.
That's on my list on Netflix. How does it stand up?
Around your neck, is that?
I haven't taken these off since
you first saw it.
These are originals. You can't see what I'm poking, but right now these are my chokers.
Your chokers, yeah, from like the girl in The Craft wears.
Yeah, but these are originals from the 90s. I never took them off. I lived through the non-trend, and the trend started again.
They expanded as you grew.
Look,
It's like my beard. I've had this since the 90s, and now it's become trendy.
No, like I never took them off. Look at any photo of me, you will not see a photo.
So, The Craft.
But The Craft, it stands up so well. It's definitely a 90s movie, but it stands up so well. It's not scary. It was never a horror movie. It was a witch movie, which sometimes can be horror.
Yeah, I wasn't scared of it at all.
No, but
but
no, it stands up really well. I was really impressed by how I was still like, and there was moments that I had forgotten, and like my friend Joe was like trying to talk to me in the middle of it, and I was like, no, like I got really, really into it, more so than I think I did maybe originally, because I was a bit older.
Yeah, I think there was a bit of a spate of witchcraft movies around that time. Like
Practical magic.
Yeah, it hit the mainstream.
Another terrifying classic as well.
I quite liked Practical Magic. I'm not going to lie. Aidan Quinn.
Here's a film I watched for the first time. Is it a horror film? The Elephant Man.
Not a horror film, but a brilliant film.
It's fantastic.
It's scary though at times, right?
Well, yeah, it's devastating as well.
Yeah. I would say devastating more so than scary.
I saw it for the first time this week.
I mean, well, everyone
without spoiling the ending.
knows. Well, everyone hopefully will.
I didn't know anything
history.
going into it.
I
didn't know. I honestly did. Yeah, I got that it was based on real events, but I didn't know anything
Merrick,
about it.
that's literally Merrick. It's like what do you call it? Like medically recorded that he literally just like.
I've seen the photo of him. There's a photo of his skeleton.
There's a cast of it, I think, isn't there? Something or a mold.
There's his skull on display. There was a really interesting documentary that I watched a couple of years ago with another sufferer of I don't know what the disease is called, but he went to see Merrick's like skeleton. And he went to the hospital, and it was like a really emotional documentary. And he like he doesn't have it as bad, obviously, but he's like, I can completely understand why you'd literally just want to put your head down and just.
That actually, to slightly tie it back in like that, there's the interesting thing about that film as well, though, when you think that David Lynch before that had only made Eraserhead.
Yeah.
So like over 5 years, he'd made this demented fever dream type thing, and then is it Dino De Laurentiis or Mel Brooks? Yeah, looked at him and thought, I'm going to give you a whole load more money and Anthony Hopkins to make this drama, and you would not look at Eraserhead and think. Beautiful little drama. Like,
I didn't know Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
Mel Brooks.
Yeah, no, he did.
I feel that Elephant Man kind of sticks out like a sore thumb in David Lynch's repertoire.
Have you seen The Straight Story?
That's
my favorite. Breaks my heart.
I'm really looking forward to watching it. But I just think in the sense that I feel that it's so different to all of his other films.
Oh yeah, it proves that he can do. Yeah.
And I don't mean sticks out like a sore thumb in a bad way. I mean that it's just. It probably sticks out like a nice thumb.
I don't think, but I think if
a manicure
with that though, he proved he could do straight up drama, and I think if he wasn't as brilliant at that, he couldn't do the kind of narratively fractured films like Mulholland Drive and Lost Highway. And I think that's a mistake. You see kind of student people trying to do a Lynchian film, and they presume I'll just make it real weird and it'll be real good. No. That guy understands telling stories brilliantly, and then he knows how. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I love Lynch. I was going to do Lynch, but I once again, I was like, Lynch is like his own baby. He's not really a horror.
Eraserhead's a hard watch as well, though. Of all the like, I love David Lynch's films. Eraserhead.
It's a tough watch.
It is hard.
I love most of his films. Yeah,
it is.
But it is a great film.
It is, like you say, that's a really good way of putting it. A fever dream, because it is very kind of off. It makes you feel very off.
It is like watching someone's nightmare. Like man's fear of commitment and children, really, but
and having your head erased.
My life.
I did say the only other thing I remember about the Elephant Man. Do you know the way there's all the steam coming up from the drains and there's all that? But he put that into designing the film because he said that's how he imagined, the Elephant Man's head, and just like he saw it as these sort of puffs of steam and smoke and how it would have been born. Wow. But it's just a weird way his mind works.
David Lynch is the only man who can talk like that, and I never think like pretentious twat. I just love hearing him talk. Like even in Eraserhead, he talks about the pile of dirt that's in the drawer, and he uses it also in Twin Peaks. And he's like, I just like piles of dirt. Okay, David.
I asked him, I think it was like he was on David Letterman or one of these, and he goes, where did you come up with the idea for Lost Highway? Or it was one of these. And he said, I was sitting in my room and the window was open and the breeze blew in and then I got the idea.
Has everyone seen him on Louis C.K.'s TV show?
No.
Oh, yeah. He's
brilliant. He's so funny.
He's really funny. He's a funny guy.
But actually recently someone said to him, why do you make such strange and confusing films? And he said, well, because life is sometimes strange and confusing.
Very well put. And we're all excited about the new Twin Peaks.
We all are very hopeful because I adore Twin Peaks and I love David Lynch, and it just so many of these. Like I was very disappointed by the X-Files revival. I don't know if I'm the only one. But
I didn't watch it because
But I like high hopes. But when I see the huge cast list and everything, you kind of go like, is this going to be tons of people squeezed in? Or what? I just hope
I do agree. The cast list is like, I'm kind of looking at it and I'm like, half of these have to be fake and it's just like covering up. But because it is Lynch and it is Twin Peaks.
When they play that music, even the little teaser trailer, my heart breaks every time. Like I am just swaying my hands in the air, just tears.
Oh, literally. Tears. I'm so excited. I'm like fangirl and out completely.
No, I think we're all on that one.
I can't wait. I really can't wait.
Connor, anything good to watch?
No, that's it.
Suggestions?
For me. That's all I've watched. So.
I need a suggestion for someone. Tell me.
I'll give you one film that I watched a while ago. I think is worth checking out. Mia Farrow's See No Evil. Not the one that was made with Kane the Wrestler more recently. I think it's kind of from the 70s, sort of a thriller horror. But just it's a smaller film. I picked it up in Golden Discs back in the day for like £4. Literally the whole pitch is she's blinded in an accident, and so she's come back to stay at someone's house the first time out of the hospital. She doesn't know the house,
right?
And she's left alone there. And while she's outside in the garden, someone comes in and murders everyone else. And when she's walking around, she doesn't realize they're dead. But so it's just all her trying to feel her way around the house, and he's still in the house and he's watching her. And it's that whole fear of like.
That's where they got the Hush idea from.
Yeah. It's feeling like that, you know, because she's kind of aware and she thinks there might be someone there. There's moments where she almost touches like a dead body in a bath.
It's a little bit like Don't Breathe as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, more on the, which I like, is the more sort of tensiony side instead of the brutal violence side. But it's just, you know, I wouldn't say it's a perfect film. And I think they are actually remaking it based on the success of Don't Breathe and Hush. But if you can find it, check it out. Good film. If you can't, I'll bring it in for you next week. But definitely, it's an interesting one to watch.
Very quickly, I did watch one other film, The Honeymoon. I don't know if anyone saw it.
No, I think so.
It stars, what's the actress from Rose? She's from Game of Thrones.
Which actress?
Jon Snow.
Jon Snow.
The red-haired one?
Kit Harington? Egret, his girlfriend?
I know the actress' name is Rose. Her first name is.
Is it his mother?
Oh, it's his it's his girlfriend. Oh yeah, I don't
the
know her name.
Wildling. Yeah, the Wildling. Yeah. Sorry.
Egret.
You know
She's
nothing,
awesome.
Jon Snow. That's her
name.
Yeah. Her name is You Know Nothing.
The Lord's Kiss.
Anyway, first half very good. Don't really want to give away the second half, but it kind of fizzles out a little bit. But it's basically like, I like the idea. It's basically a couple on their honeymoon, they're married, but then he's kind of like, what have I got myself into here? Who have I married? Which I think is an interesting idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that on Netflix right now?
Could be.
Is this?
Because I was looking at that recently, and I was like, oh, will I watch it?
It's a female director. She directs some of the Scream TV series.
Oh, cool.
Oh, deadly.
Actually, we should have a chat about that someday as well.
Yeah.
We might do TV series one week.
I haven't watched it.
We're checking out.
I'm really, really bad with TV series.
Me too. But they take a lot longer to catch up on as well than a movie.
It's like Game of Thrones is one thing.
There's so many TV series out nowadays that there's just not enough time in the world.
Well, I certainly have no time to
watch all of them
at all. So I would not be valid for that podcast. So what are we going to do next week?
I think we'll talk about that off air.
Off air. Oh,
what would our so when our episode comes out in the next week or so, would like to hear if there's anything we missed out on, right? If there's any good gems.
I think we need to set up either a Facebook page or a Twitter thing or something for people to actually. I think we'll do both. So we'll have that set up by the next podcast because we would love to get feedback and people's thoughts.
Yeah, I want people to tell me what supernatural movies to watch.
And this is the awful thing. I have to give a shout out to Brian Folan because he loves listening to our podcast.
Hi, Brian.
Yo, Brian.
Is Brian the chap in Poland?
He is indeed.
Hi, how's the snow?
And a shout out to Steve Galvin.
Stephen Galvin.
Steven.
You may have censored me, but with good reason.
And on that beautiful note, listeners, thank you all for listening.
Thanks, guys.
Ciao, bye.
You